Affected me personally is that I became really over-involved in my studies.
I would go home crying, like my locker was covered in the word slut. I think I just tried to make it through, you know? Like I just tried to, because that's the toughest thing about school, you gotta go every day. You can't really get out of it. And so I just have to keep going back to school and keep smiling and hope that by the end of the day I could just get away fast enough to not get my ass kicked again.
And I always felt I missed a lot because of being ostracized. Like, those could have been friends of mine, but they weren't.
Some girls become very sexually active. They may not have been sexually active before they were called a slut, but in response to being thought of as sexually active, they kind of go overboard.
I was clearly staying out all night. I was doing what I wanted. I was coming over to friends' homes and having sex with their brothers, having sex with their brothers' friends, flirting with their fathers, just being really inappropriate, but not realizing it because even though you're sexualized at an early age, it doesn't mean you're mentally ready for what goes with it. So I was behaving in a way that, looking back as a 45-year-old woman, I see was clearly a scream for help. And nobody ever helped me.
I had no idea that I was raped when I was young. Like, to me, it was just I was pressured, and I didn't understand what date rape was. And when people explained it to me, I was kind of like, well, that's silly. Like, I think I just lost the rest, like what was left of my self-esteem, and just didn't think I was worth anything more than that, because it got to a point where that was all, like, that's what I expected from everyone that I knew and everyone that I met, was that they were going to look at me as in a certain way.
Probably the most disturbing thing about it was that I didn't feel I could talk to anybody. I didn't feel safe. I'm amazed that nobody picked up on it, my school teachers, my counselor, whatever.
I literally cried, I mean, tears coming down my cheeks, in school, in class, and yet not a single teacher or administrator gave me a helping hand or tried to have any understanding of what was going on. In fact, the opposite occurred. One faculty member pulled me into her office and told me that my crying was disruptive to the other students and disruptive to the teachers, and that I had to stop, otherwise I was going to be forced out of the school.
It made it very hard to be in school, like to be present, to think, to learn. I ended up dropping out of school. I hated school. I hated it.
I dropped out of school? Yeah, that's how it stopped.
I had nothing to lose. I'd go up and punch him in the face because I had nothing to lose. I had, really no parents or whatever, and you know what I mean? When you don't have any fear of repercussions, what's the fear of going up and knocking someone out? None.
I literally fought back and used violence. One guy just called me a slut one day. I let him walk ahead of me, and I decided to punch him in the lower spine. Someone calls me a slut, I'll tell them to screw off.
We think of high school and adolescence as a time when the self is forming. That's the point where you're becoming who you are and you're figuring out where you fit in and all that stuff. So how does that happen when your identity belongs to the crowd? When your identity does not belong to you at any level? There's no door you can close beyond which they are not imagining what's going on. None of the girls deserve to be ostracized for whatever they want to do with a guy, for one thing.
She got totally trashed. Thought she's such a hoe. It's totally true.
Often I would get the question, well, the women want this, or they bring this on themselves, don't they? Maybe she does bring it on herself. I mean, yeah, maybe some of these girls I talked to were exhibitionists, but then why did they go from sort of reveling in their selves and their exhibitionism to being punished?
She's such a slut. I mean, she'd do it with anyone.
Why do we want it so much? Why do we bring it on? Why do the people who are outside of her
all those football guys
want to create her?
Oh my God, you're not gonna believe what just happened.
It's like a dream the crowd is having about the girl.
I enjoy being a slut.
We have so many words in the English language to describe a girl who is considered sexually casual, you know, who's considered loose. I mean, there's slut, bitch, hoe, tramp, bimbo, harlot. I mean, we could go on and on and on. Now, what do we have for a male who is sexually active or considered to be very sexually active? We don't have any negative words. They're all positive words like stud or the man. And it really points to the fact that we have this sexual double standard. You know, boys will be boys, but girls will be sluts.
The biggest drawback of being a slut and being a porn star is that it's hard to have real strong relationships sometimes. And it's nice to have that in your life, an emotional relationship. The thing is, parents raise their boy, and you know this is true. You know, come on, son, go get him. Make your dad proud. Look, honey, look all the girls chasing Junior. Isn't that exciting? Then they get the daughter. Don't you dare. You wait till the guy gets to know you. You're married, don't you dare. You never see a father and mother go, look at the boys chasing Mary. It's a whole different ballgame, you see? That double standard, that creates a double standard, and it goes on from generation to generation. And it is worldwide. I've been all over the world. It's not any different elsewhere. In fact, it's probably a lot better off here. Women are a little more independent in America, but around the world, double standard holds strong. And it's a shame because that's why men can be sluts and smile about it, or do porn and brag to everybody. And women, of course, have to be a little uncomfortable.
There are guys in my school who are actually extremely promiscuous. If a girl does it, then why should it be any different if a guy does it? Why should they get the praise when the girl gets the slander?
Don't talk about the fact that you had sex. You read magazine articles, they're telling these young girls, don't tell boys how many, you know, boys you've slept with. No one wants to hear it, you know, keep the number under 10. And I mean, this is all, you know, get a fact checker, man, it's out there. This is what is drummed into women's heads. You know, don't fess up, you know, be ashamed.
I certainly get more letters from girls who are worried about people's attitudes towards and opinions about the level of sexual activity they engage in than boys. Boys never get letters from boys who are worried that they're having too much sex or too many partners, or what their reputation is. Never comes up with guys.
Like, they can talk about how horny they are, one-night stands that they've had, and everyone cheers them on, but a woman does it. It's like, we're totally looked down upon, like as if we can't have fun, or as if we don't have sexual needs.
And the culture is so hypocritical. We're selling thongs for 10-year-old girls and then screaming and yelling about young people becoming sexually active or being so sexualized. You know, the culture expresses like what masses of people want, even if they can't have it. And I think that's a cultural expression of it. It's also a way of communicating to young women that they're going to be objects all their lives, or their most important role is to be an object. You know, it's deeply hypocritical of the culture to sort of elevate the body of the adolescent as the sexual ideal and then terrorize young people for being sex objects, or people regarding younger people as sex objects.
Look at the way the kids dress, blah, 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 they're asking for it. You're asking to be desired, and therefore you're asking to be destroyed.
You know, the paranoia about sluts, the paranoia about underage sexual activity is all about this sort of cultural guilt. We have made youth and young people's bodies central to, you know, our sexual lives, our sexual subconscious lives, and the marketing of non-sexual products through the sex appeal of young people, and then, you know, wanting to, you know, distance ourselves from the consequences of that.
To say that we're living in a time where girls are more sexualized is true, but there's still the one girl who is supposed to have done that. There's still going to be one girl chosen who's gone too far. Maybe 15 or 20 years ago, it could have been a girl dressed a certain way, and you would say, that's her. I think now that would be pretty hard. And it's so much about not really knowing what sex is, and so needing a story to tell about sex, and needing to tell almost like a monster, you know, make a tale of a monster of sex, so that, you know, she's there sort of warning you beyond the place beyond which you shouldn't go, just like, you know, the monsters in myths.
People just have to know that kids are having sex, or they're thinking about it.
I count my blessings all the time because I never got an STD, I never got sick, I never did anything, because I put myself in dangerous situations all the time. One of the ways to enjoy a sexual relationship is to have safe sex, and it's to not do it because you feel like you should or you have to, or because you have to live up to a reputation.
I always compare sex education to a driver's ed class where they teach you how the internal combustion engine works, but they don't teach you how to drive. What we call sex education is this thing that is basically reproductive biology, fallopian tubes and zygotes and spermatozoa and stuff that nobody thinks about or wants to think about when they're having sex. Nobody who is horny is thinking, I'm gonna go make a zygote. Yeah. What we should be teaching in sex ed is what virtuous sexual activity looks like, which is not necessarily missionary position, matrimonial weight. It is how you respect your partner and how you find a partner and how you negotiate a safe, responsible way to have the kind of sex that you want to have, not the kind of sex that the Pope wants you to have necessarily. You get to decide what kind of sex that you want to have. How do you get laid? And how do you negotiate sex? And how do you know when you're ready or not? But discussing when you know when you're ready or not might put it in your head that you're ready. So I get letters all the time from, 14 and 15 and 16-year-old girls who want tips on blowjob technique.
And what do you tell them?
I ask them if they're sure they want to be given blowjobs at 14. I'm a little conservative, I guess, in some ways. But then I give them the tips, That's what you should do with young people. You should give them the information that they ask for, and you should give them a reality check to make sure that they wonder and examine why they're doing what they're doing, and if it's really what they want to be doing. And if it is what they really want to be doing and they make that decision, it's their decision to make. And part of the whole slut thing is about who's virtuous and who's not virtuous. And if we can get away from the idea that if you're sexually active, you are by definition not virtuous, we can find a big chink in the armor of the whole slut thing and the damage that it does.
I always thought that the only girls that could be sluts were the ones with the big tits.
The high school slut is an icon, a caricature, a cliche, a victim, and a star. If the boys want to hook up with her, the girls are on the offensive, making modern and old school mythology.
Many girls I talked to would get warnings, like stay away from our boyfriends, as if like she should be quarantined or something. If the greatest value in a patriarchal culture is the man at the center of the story, then the idea that he could be stolen means that you would have nothing, that you would be alone. That girl is going to take them all.
I was the boyfriend stealer. That was the biggest one. Don't leave your boyfriend alone with her. Don't let her talk to your boyfriend because she'll steal him. All my friends were guys because I didn't get along with girls because honestly, I was kind of terrified of the girls in my grade.
It's girls who are pointing a finger at the school slut, and it's girls who engineer this ostracism. Now, boys do participate. I don't want to get boys totally off the hook, but usually they are not the ones to start the rumor. Girls have a unique kind of anxiety because they have desire. They are learning about their bodies or wanting to learn about their bodies, and yet they know that if they act on their desire, if they express their sexuality through their bodies, they will be punished.
Where the whole slut thing comes from, I think, is thousands of years of trying to control female sexuality. And I think it's all rooted in fear of female sexuality. And female sexuality is terrifying to some people.
Certain young women have a lot of sexual power, and people know it on some either subconscious or conscious level, and they try to squelch that power.
They may be stuck with this label in their classes during the day, but at night they can go out in the city and form their own tribe of other sluts and rejects and weirdos and goths and freaks and fags.
I'm the kind that you wanna. I'm the kind that you wanna. I'm the kind that you wanna. You wanna. I'm the kind of bitch that you wanna get. Well, if I'm the kind of bitch that you wanna get. Well, if I'm the kind of bitch that you wanna get. Well.
There was one girl she was totally flat, and like me, and she was my height, and she wore so much makeup, and she used to pick up guys all the time at the bowling alleys and stuff like that, and she was the biggest slut, and it really changed my head because I realized I could be a slut because even though I'm flat, I just put on lots of makeup and I could be a slut too. Themes in my music are just like, let's stop beating around the bush and actually say directly what we want about sex and just about what people say every day, you know, because it's just such a sham the way that, you know, the bad girl image in pop music just, you know, skirts around the issue, you know, and they're just not direct. Only, you know, like rappers say it how it is, and it's just like, well, I want to say it how it is.
Don't you know it's supposed to feel better for boys? Don't you know it's supposed to feel better for boys?
I do get a lot of thank yous, and thank you for being a really good influence for girls, and even a lot of guys thank me too for getting them off. No, for being an influence. It's just whatever, you want to fuck, fine. You don't, you just do what you want. It's just ridiculous of this little like teasy romantic crap.
Girls are like writing the word slut on their arms and screaming it in rock shows and saying, you know, sure, I'm a slut. Why is it any of your business?
People try and reclaim it now by using bitch and slut, you know. Like I even have a song, you know, I'm the kind of bitch. So, just trying to take it back.
If you called me a slut, I would say, thank you so much. You slut, you. It's a kind of compliment because it means you're just like sexy. You like sex and you're open to adventure.
This party is the more popular of the two fetish parties. People always go, there goes trouble. How did they see me? So I thought I would capitalize on that. And then I have like this saucy little minx necklace. And then I put some velvet on it. I had this old skirt because I like to make crazy like little fetish skirts to wear with corsets. And then you don't have to wear a lot of makeup. That's what's good about a veil. You'd be like all fucking ugly and hungover and shit and no one knows. Because it's just spotty. Like I got smallpox. If you want to label me with something society has made into this bad word, have at it. Call me a cunt. I don't care. I don't care. Just don't call me a Christian. That's what an old high school whore looks like.
The word slut made my skin crawl when I was in junior high, definitely. It just turned me off. And since then, I've definitely taken it back.
It only really works if we're all in agreement with each other that this is ironic, you know, and that we're playing around. And my fear is that so many people aren't in on the joke.
Word slut has, you know, very clear and negative meaning.
No, I don't think it can be reclaimed, and I wouldn't want to.
My entire adult life has been about trying to empower women to embrace their sexual potential and power and to follow their muse and do that. If you want to be celibate, great. If you want to be monogamous, wonderful. It's fabulous. If you want to be a slut or whore, great. Go for it. There's no one right way. There's what is your way.
Fags and sluts and geeks rule the world after high school.
She has blowjobs for cigarettes.
The myth of the high school slut continues, passed through generations. The sexual revolution, civil rights movement, and feminism haven't changed what goes on in high school hallways.
I mean, I just think teenagers are a great mystery to adults, and sometimes when you're confronted with a mystery, you just come up with a bunch of platitudes and come on, everything will be okay. It's not that serious.
Adults don't intervene.
get into the story with them and say, what did you hear? And expose it for its cartoonish quality, because that's where the story lives. That's where it still excites kids.
The one piece of advice I gave a slut that I heard years later from that very slut, girl who'd been labeled slut, that was useful was to say so what to people who like got in her face about sleeping with the football team. To say, yeah, I slept with all of them, including your boyfriend. Pretend it's true and make it worse. Pretend that you've done everything. You slept with everybody. It sort of obliterates the power of these other people to make up stories about you that are worse than the ones you've made up about yourself.
It's the labelers who say slut who have the problem, not the girl. But try telling the girl that.
Sexy is, it's something we all aspire to be, is sexy, and to have a good sex life. And if we think someone else is, and we're not,